It's time for a new adventure.
Welcome back to another episode of Adventures in Business, a podcast for the 517 Lansing area with interviewing people doing all kinds of fun things. And we've got a great guest for you today. But before we jump into that, I'm here with my lovely co-host, Lisa. How you doing, Lisa?
I'm doing great, Amy. You know, when we were thinking about what have we done in the 517 area, and my daughters took me to brunch to Creole in Old Town.
Always a treat.
Oh my gosh, that food was amazing. But they also have a space that's off to the side that's like a rental, an event rental space. Yeah. And so, man, if you're in Old Town, check out Creole. The food was amazing, and they might be able to host your next event. So.
Yeah, I've never been there for brunch. So you're telling me about that, and I got to check that out for brunch. I've always just been there for dinner. That Old Town's always fun. There's a million things to do down there. Yeah. And this will be a few weeks now when this episode comes out, but I did go to the East Lansing Art Festival. We had the manager of that on our show. And then I went and we took the shuttle that she told us about, which was super easy. Kata was awesome. We took the shuttle, got us dropped off. It was hot. Really hot that day, but at least it wasn't raining, and it was gorgeous. It was just super organized. It was just all the fun things that she told us about. It was really great. We enjoyed it. I bought some stuff. So, and then we've got John with us. So, John, have you done something fun around town?
For sure, I do a ton of things fun around town. I'm a big bar hopper. I don't like sitting down for big meals. So I by nature go on just a walkabout and an adventure when I go out. So just hitting the Stadium District and the distilleries of Michigan and then American Fifth and hitting the brewery. And you absolutely need to grab bites of food while doing it. Otherwise you'll be in a lot of trouble. And just going up and down Michigan Avenue, right? And hitting some of the older bars, playing some darts and some shuffleboard. I've really enjoyed that. And that's generally like when you go to that, you're popping in and you're meeting different people. Because each bar brings a different demographic, and you just hop in a conversation at a bar, and you know, in any kind of food and drink setting, especially in these walk-in kind of moments, people are looking for a conversation. So that's generally, you know, I've done a ton of. Again, the Stadium District, bouncing around that. Recently, going down North Washington and kind of see what's going on, popping at Gray Wall Hall, trying to hit a show there. There's been a lot of great activations in the area, so I don't really have one particular moment, but just like. I'm in town a couple of days a week, every week, and then I'll stay overnight, and I'll just go follow my nose.
Yeah, that's a really good. I like that plan, the popping in and out. I went with a group of friends. We were networking, and we went to one of the local bars on Michigan Avenue. I won't name it, but we happened to be there the night of their trivia night. And we definitely were messing up their program. we took a table that was supposed to be someone else's table, and they were not particularly happy that we were there because they had their whole trivia thing going on. It was really funny, but we made friends, and it was all good in the end. So it was fun. So that they all have their own little flavor for sure.
I love that. We host trivia at our place, and you reminded me of the story. And there was a storm, and the guy comes from Grand Rapids, and he couldn't get there. So I was like, I'll just do it, whatever.
Right. I know trivia. I know facts.
Yeah, and unfortunately for the crowd is like, I'm so steeped in 90s culture.
Nice.
You're just shaking their head like, I got none of this, man. Like, so that's all I got.
Right. Yeah. Right. I love it. So you've heard him. Lisa, tell us who we got.
Very good. We have John Hartzel, start over, Hammond. Jonathan Hartzel, developer, director of acquisitions and programming, general partner. John's entrepreneurial spirit comes naturally to him as he started his first business while pursuing his BBA from Northwood University. In 2011, he then founded Facilities Management Group and expanded the company by securing contracts with major food and beverage franchises across the Midwest. Most recently, he's combined his life experiences and passions to develop Detroit Shipping Company and then found Detroit Rising Development. John has also served as a board member for Midtown Detroit Inc., a 501c3 nonprofit planning and development organization since 2016. So he looks to continue to be a driving force that is revitalizing the Detroit and cities like it across the country. So welcome, John. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. It's the day after Memorial Day, so I'm like well rested and ready for work, and then
Awesome.
enjoying the barbecue leftovers.
Yeah,
Mm,
for sure.
great.
Well, I think your bio didn't really mention, though, what John does here in Lansing is that he's the owner of the Lansing Shuffle.
Yeah, wonderful. We, through that original bio, which probably is a little dated now that you ask, we were invited by the political parties in Lansing to come and interpret their riverfront, and particularly the old farmers market. It
Mhm.
didn't turn out what they were hoping it to be. It wasn't really a catalyst of growth or driving traffic.
Mhm.
And they had came and experienced our Detroit shipping company, and they found that, like, culturally and experientially, that's what they were hoping for, right? Because we're very diverse, and when you go and sit in that space, now when you go to Lansing Shuffle as well, you don't just get one demographic. You get across the board a lot, and it's very transitional and a very community-driven space.
Yeah.
And so that's what we had in Detroit, and that was our goal and target for Lansing as well. And I think we've hit it, and we're a year deep. And I feel like as you go from 11 o'clock till midnight, you just see this transition of the whole community throughout the day, and it's pretty amazing. Families, empty nesters, dates, everything you see out there, you see it in our space.
People with dogs.
People with dogs.
I brought my dog there before.
We got in trouble. We posted a photo of a boxer sitting at the bar. And then we got an email saying you can't have animals at the bar. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was for 2 seconds for a cute picture, but okay. Yeah.
It's a good photo. I like that.
Right. Well, it's such a beautiful location right on the river there, and by the park, and by the river trail, and so much cool stuff going on. I've been to an outdoor market last summer that you had a bunch of vendors and stuff out there on the outside patio. Was really cool. You guys are doing everything there. You got music, trivia, all kinds of food. There's an event space people can rent. Yeah.
It's really part of our principles of business. Just from like the start of what are we? We're a food hall with experiential things like shuffleboard, right? And then other games throughout the week. We do bar classes and cooking classes, and we do tasting menus, and we have for drink and food. Then we'll do trivia, karaoke, and then we have a lot of experience on the river where it's a summer music series every Friday night. There's live music out there, plus different groups coming through the community and using our space. There's a Saturday yoga course or class that's happening on the patio. Throughout the summer, there's a bunch of different markets, like you mentioned. Afterglow Market happens now; it's starting on Friday nights, which brings a lot of local purveyors. So really, in the business model that we created in our food hall setting, from the basis of a food hall, which is essentially bringing a collective of small food vendors, non-chains, into a space, trying to be local Michigan, and specifically in Lansing Shuffle, we wanted to capture from Detroit to Grand Rapids, this and centralize it. So we have a few vendors from the west side, a few from the east side, and a few local, so that when we market, our sphere of influence, it attracts the whole state. And we're hoping to not only be an amenity for local Lansing, but also draw new, tourist dollars to Lansing. So people come, park here, get little food. Like I mentioned, go on that walkabout. Go hit a distillery, a brewery, go hit a shop down on Washington, and really experience Lansing. Lansing over the last couple of years, in adding all the hotel rooms and a few more hotels coming up, we're starting to have that ability to capture a long weekend, right? So if I'm in Grand Rapids, and instead of me going up north 2.5, 3 hours, I can come 45 minutes east and have a staycation on a weekend. Hit a show at Gray Wall, go to East Lansing, hit a show there, hit a sporting event. The next night, stay and go experience dining and entertainment in downtown Lansing.
Sounds like a good weekend to me.
How did you come up with your vision for this? I know we talked about the Detroit venue, but even with that, how did you develop your vision?
There's a lot of layers into that. And again, we like the principles of spheres of influence and bringing a lot of different communities together. That's why we like food halls, right? And we share in the experience of real estate. So like our vendors are all like part of. You have 7 owners in a building, right? And so now we're doing the front of the house and the bar. They're doing the food, and they're doing different cuisines. And we all meet weekly, and we kind of talk through principles and practices. And if something's not working, we collectively kind of solve it. So we really like that in our investments of what we're doing as a base. And then we go and we look at a location and we try to ask ourselves principles. So like I use this analogy a lot, but like, Hooters is a fine restaurant group. If you like hot wings and whatever they're selling, sports, but it doesn't belong in every community, right? You can't just go each community, you get one. So when we go to a community, we don't say, hey, you get Detroit Shipping Company, because that might not match what's there. And you want to be conscious to how you're being, growing with the community and being part of it. And so we take a long time to really curate our experience, our decor, and just kind of the principles in the space. So when we toured Lansing Shuffle, the space that would be that, it was during COVID. So we weren't seeing foot traffic, right? It was this beautiful river walk built out. There were no events at the convention center. There were no events at the ballpark. And we had to just ask ourselves through questions of like, what's the demographic local? What's one tier out, two tiers out? When do people come and what are they looking for in this space? You have a robust office and political space downtown that has a certain window and time. And then you have a lot of families in the area, less young professionals right now, but the hope is to grow young professionals in that area. So we started kind of trying to mimic those principles of what was there in the community. And that started informing us on our programming. And then for like decor and style, there was a few meetings that really like spoke to me. Is one, I was with Kathleen Edgerly and Brian McGrain, and we were kind of walking up and down the river and just talking about some experiences that had happened in previous. And someone talked about how a barge had come up, and they had like a floating dance on this barge at the river. And it reminded me of the movie A Roman Holiday. And if you've ever seen it, Audrey Hepburn, Gregory Peck go down and they have a little dance there, and then they get in a fight with some police guard or whatever. It was just this really charming experience where people are down having little sips of drinks and having a nice dance on the river. And I could just see that with the lit park there, and then with the history of architecture down Washington Avenue with Knapp's building and whatnot, and then the concept that there's politicians and office space here. I just saw like this real like 50s mod. Like Mad Men kind of experience, but also bringing into a softer feel of Audrey Hepburn. So then I just took this as she was my muse, as Audrey Hepburn's my muse. And when you go through there, feel that in the color, right? You feel that in the space, like very light and airy, and should be approachable for all.
Yeah. I guess we should kind of describe the Lansing Shuffle for some of our listeners who haven't been there. It's hard to imagine anyone in Lansing who hasn't checked it out, but it is where the old Lansing Market was, right downtown behind the Lansing Center on the river. And when you walk in, there's a big, gorgeous, beautiful bar to your left. And then all around are all these different food vendors. So you've got all kinds of options. There's an ice cream place, there's traditional food, there's Asian flavored food, there's vegan options, there's all kinds of stuff. And then you've got all the shuffleboard and a big open area in the middle, and they got trivia and stuff. So it's a great place to go if you're with a group of people, because they can all find something they like to eat. And it's great because you go up and order, and then they text you when your food is ready, so you don't have to stand around. It's a great system. And the bar is fantastic. You've got all kinds of great stuff there. And you're right, it is gorgeous. It's big open windows. You can see the river. It's just very nice. Yeah.
I'll tell you this. If you want a food hall correct, first off, go with a group. You got to go with a group, right? A lot of conversation. And then everybody needs to order food they're willing to share. Get tastes from all the spaces and just scoop a bunch of schlub on the next person's plate and get the flavors. Over the last, because we opened Detroit Shipping Company in 2018, so we started thinking about food halls in like 2015. So between there and now, I've hit pretty much every food hall in this country, and you probably can't see it, but it sits there.
Is the Detroit Shipping Company a similar, like food hall?
Programmatically, it's similar in the sense that we have 6 food vendors. A little different. We have some retailers there. We have 2 walking art galleries, live music, and then indoor-outdoor space.
So similar feel.
Similar feel. Different aesthetic in the sense that it's Detroit industrial, built out of shipping containers. Right.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. Whereas Lansing's obviously in the pole barn on the river.
Right. Yeah. So are you familiar with the Mikado Club that's
I
going
am.
into?
Again,
Okay.
yeah, Kathleen and their team have been great. I've talked to them a few times about it, wishing them well. We get a lot of people emailing us looking to be vendors. So we've been sharing our contact points
Oh,
with
okay.
them. And then
Cool.
we have a few vendors that are kind of startup young in their business. And so we're hoping they can get a little mentorship through some of the programs over with Kathleen and their team.
Right. Yeah. So for our listeners, the Mikado Club is another, I guess, kind of a food hall or incubator in the Knapp building, which is going to be several vendors and food and things like that, which will be great for the businesses that are already there, the art gallery and Sweet Encounters and stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, a little heavier in the incubator, right? Little smaller space build outs. They're going to have a big commissary, I believe, good event space, right? And then they're hoping to do a good amount of mentorship to the vendors so that as they graduate through, they can fold into the community.
Oh, so they'd start there, grow it, and then maybe get their own brick and mortar store.
Yeah, what we found is our space, the vendors stay longer.
Okay.
They're more established spaces. So in Detroit, when we first launched, we thought we would every 3 years start turning over. And instead, the food vendors have felt very safe. And it's like they've been very successful. Like Detroit, we have 6 vendors. 3 have become investors in other real estate deals with us. 2 have opened second locations with us and third and fourth locations elsewhere.
Okay.
And another one, his goal was to bring his name back to Detroit to, win awards and grow. And so he opened up a restaurant and then opened up and took over the director of cuisine at Greektown Casino and has just really grown his personal brand.
Wow.
So we've done well by those vendors. One of the proudest things we have is that, we're not landlords, right? We're partners in this space.
Right.
So that's what we're assuming is going to happen in Lansing is that people won't want to leave. It's just because it's really, really safe. So Kathleen and their space is hoping to be a little more incubator where they're like, growing vendors to into brick and mortars that are so badly needed in downtown Lansing.
Yeah. That's so interesting because if you go into the Shuffle, the spaces that they have are such a nice, manageable space. I am a previous restaurant owner, and so that to me would be much more easily managed than maybe a really big restaurant or something where
no front of the house, no facility work, right?
And you've got built-in advertising because people are coming anyway, and that's great. So are there any spaces available right now at the Shuffle?
Not currently. We did tier a couple of our leases to be only a year and a half to give us the opportunity to say if we were wanting to do some shift that we had the opportunity. We may or may not explore that. We'll see. The fact that Shuffle didn't open until this month,
right?
I feel like it didn't give the right run space for some of the restaurants, so we want to give them a little bit of extra time to capture what we're gaining from the Shuffleboard, which, mind you, has been great. Seeing people come in and play, and the Shuffleboard piece I've been interested in for a few years. I went down to Florida with a group, and our group we're going down to a trade show, and from 20 years old to 60-year-old group. It was big spectrum, right? And so you can imagine picking where to go and do something. You'd be like, how are we fitting it? In Orlando area, there weren't really hotels unless you're in Disney. So we were at like a condominium resort, and they had a pool area in a little space. We went down there as a group, and there was shuffleboard and a blending machine. And we went down to hang out to kill an hour, and then 6 hours later, we're still down there. Like I said, 20 to 60, everyone was having a great time.
Nice.
Super approachable. You could walk up, grab a stick of puck and a slushy drink, and just shuffle it along and just really have a good time.
So is the Shuffleboard, now that it's open, is it like kind of just open play? You come and play if it's open, or do you foresee like tournaments or anything like that in the future? Or
we'll have tournaments in the fall. We're letting the summer kind of play out a bit. We have one league that was privately asked to run. We let them run it because we wanted to see how a league would unfold and how it look. That piece looks good, so we're gonna in a couple of weeks start in advertising to pick up a few more leagues. And then we really wanted a lot of open play, just to give everyone a chance to come in and pop in and use it. I suggest that you go on our website, LansingShuffle.com, and reserve ahead of time. It's just a lot easier than trying to reserve. Because a lot of people are coming sort of at the same time, so you get these bottlenecks. So really the peak hours, unless you're coming at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday, which I don't know how many people want to do that, but I would suggest go on our website. And then when you do, come a half an hour before your time. It's like going bowling, right? You gotta get in there, you got to organize yourself.
Get your drink, get your food. Yeah.
Make your food.
Yeah.
And then, and so we have a 15-minute prior to start check-in. So if you come a half an hour before, you can go grab a couple things. If you want a table for food or whatever and sit down and relax, there's a lot of ways, but that's the best way to do it.
Okay.
Excellent. So what would be the what's next there? Is there, I'm trying to think of the location expansion possibilities. Is it just this is what it's going to be, or what are your thoughts?
So there's two things. One is our programming, and really getting into the fall and winter. Now we've had a whole year to understand, when people are in town, when they're not in town, and when it's important to have extra programming. So that for the space, we're starting to get ahead of ourselves. We programmed, like I said, the River Music Series. It's all the way through October. There's music booked on Friday night. So if you want to just go for a stroll and get a drink and maybe a boozy milkshake and sit outside in the sun, great spot. And then go walk down, go hit the brewery. Right, there's some cool mural art at Shiawassee. Really worth checking out. Walk down to Old Town. It's worth it. It's a social district, so that's a really great experience. You can get downtown all the way through the stadium district. As for like physical development, we've been trying. We kind of stalled on it, but we love the idea of implementing some like container retail down under Shiawassee to give some next point of contact. You go down there and you can get into like a little gallery where you walk in, check out art, have your drink and your food, walking down the river walk. That'd be nice. It's a difficult because it's a floodplain, so we've got some hurdles. I've been working with some out-of-state engineers who have systems that could potentially help us with these little like transient containers that allow us to solve floodplain issues. That's a stretch. We're working on it. I know there's a lot of groups working on the river, and there's a lot of activity they're trying to get down there. So I'm hoping that all the meetings I'm hearing, we're going to start getting more festivals again, coming back, and more experiences on the weekends on the river.
So what about the river trail? Because there's like you can get to it right from the Shuffle right near there, and then like Art Path that opens.
Art Path launches this week on Thursday. Yeah,
so, that's exciting.
Yeah, we've been huge fans with them, and we've been in conversation with them for a year. I believe we're a sponsor this year, and we've been working on getting one of their maps in our building and kind of just helping promote that. It's a big piece we do in Detroit. We have 3 venues, actually. Detroit, we have a place in Hamtramck that's a music venue. But we have our art rotates between Hamtramck, Detroit, and Lansing, trying to give artists the most exposure as possible. And so we have some good partnerships, but that's exciting. We really love that Art Path exists, and it's starting up again this year.
Yeah, we should say that there is really cool art hanging in the Lansing Shuffle too.
There is.
Yeah. I'm on the board of the Lansing Art Gallery, so I'm pretty involved in the Art Path. And but so what experiences are you having with homelessness down in that area?
It's interesting. It exists. It's coming from Detroit. It's a different crowd, right? And it's more people who are looking for services, right, in a spot while they're waiting for shelters to let them in at night,
right?
Versus what we see in Detroit, depending on what location you are, right? Our Detroit location has an issue, a drug issue there, pretty heavily. That brings a different crowd. Yeah. Here it just seems to be more of just people, just biding time.
Yeah.
Right.
I would agree.
Yeah, it's not seeing too much, of an issue on our end.
Not crime, you mean like
no,
crime, just crime, people there.
No, more so looking to use power, for space to sit and fill time while they're waiting for their next point of wherever they're going.
Right.
There's the city has a CPO, a police officer that patrols, and she knows pretty much all the people up and down the river. She's up and down it, has conversations with anyone that's ever like loitered too long or had issues of that nature. But for the most part, we haven't really had a problem.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Like I said, our other location, you see something different.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So what inspired you to get into all of this in the first place? What's your why, I guess?
Yeah, that's a deeper piece because I didn't set out to do food halls.
I hear that a lot.
Yeah. What I owned a construction company that was focused on corporate restaurants. I owned a
Mhm.
painting company that did residential commercial work. I started getting into house flipping, where I was tearing roofs off houses and adding 1,000 square feet. So I was doing restaurant work, construction work, design work, and at the same time, I wasn't getting a lot of fulfillment out of what I was doing.
Yeah.
'Cause especially in the corporate restaurant, you're just regurgitating a footprint that is someone else's dream. And
Yeah.
though it pays a check, it just doesn't feel like it supports anything in the community. Right? It's just a thing that's there. And so I long struggled with longevity and the concept of a legacy that you leave, especially I
Mhm.
mentioned I have a lot of children. And,
Mhm.
what's great to drive by and say, hey, see that Tim Hortons? It looks like every other Tim Hortons. Your dad did that. But there's not much in that. Again, like I mentioned earlier, there's no soul to that at all.
Mhm.
Um, and so there was a point where I was in an office in Birmingham. I live in Beverly Hills, and I was driving on the freeways for work, and not really impacting uh, the community of Michigan itself and people around me. And I just thought that there needs to be something that I do. So I decided with a bunch of friends to invest in the city of Detroit to create a more vibrant downtown and be part of the help of that, right? And just whatever our fair shake on that is.
Mhm.
And through all my experiences, through all the work influences I had, and the concept of bringing something to Detroit, I formulated the concept of Detroit Shipping Company, which seemed pretty cool and like it'd be a great experience to do. And through the action of doing it and the interaction with community, I realized that I really liked community impactful development that like
Mhm.
brought something more than just making money.
Mhm.
And so that kind of you know birthed Detroit Rising Development, which is my development company.
Mhm.
And I hadn't had any guiding light beyond that of like I'll go and do something if I feel like there's impact to it. So we
Right.
bought an apartment building in South Lansing area,
Okay.
and we added laundry into every individual apartment. And I mean that's against the actual financial model that makes sense, but it's the standard
Mhm.
of living I think is deserved. I grew up with a single mom and who'd worked as a waitress or at a daycare or something of that nature, and then she has to take her kids to a laundromat, whereas the next person is sitting in their house, doing laundry while they're studying
Yeah.
for further education. Well, my mom can't; she's got
Mhm.
to herd cats, right? And so things like that is kind of how we started looking. There was a YMCA in Livonia that was for sale during COVID, and we bought it and didn't tear it down. We just used the space
Mhm.
there to work on what was missing in that community. Well, there's a lot of indoor training space that small groups need that they can't find time on with
Mhm.
clear span. So we turfed a bunch of space, and now we've got a lot of local sports teams using it, including Madonna University comes during the day, and all their sports come through. Girls, softball, track, baseball, lacrosse, soccer, all of them come through. In fact, the NFL there's a women's football league in Detroit Prowl who just won the championship. They used our facility as their training facility. So it's kind of
Nice.
my brother and
Yeah.
the GM there have Detroit Prowl shirts and they got rings out of the deal. It's kind of great. So like, I generally try to find things that I feel like have impact to either, grow a community or at least I can say that I've supported and helped something.
Nice. Is there anything that you can share with what you're working on in the Lansing area? I know you said you bought the building in the South Lansing, but is there any other footprint you're working on?
We have conversations right now with
Mhm.
with community groups. Right now we're really trying to support that South Lansing apartment complex, right?
Okay.
And like so, like there's some city land behind a recycling center, and had a village living in a little tent village living in the tree
Mhm.
line, which was causing problems in that community for the apartments. So we cleaned the tree line up and brought it up high, which brought a lot of sunlight through, and then people just kind of moved on to the next spot, but
Mhm.
supported our apartment complex and the one next door. things like that, and just talking through with the commissioners in that area and the different groups. The mayor's office has been great, and the economic development team there, just talking through and saying, how can we support? Can we do like a community, like event down here that shows that this area matters too, and that there's like, the mayor came to a barbecue down there and was, hung out and met a lot of people in the apartment. So just trying to make sure, that you're supporting in the space and solidifying what you have, because people don't understand this, right? They just think you go buy something and you own it. And, that guy must be rich. We aren't. and not only when you build something, did you invest and take a lot of risk, but you also birthed a community that you need to raise, right? And you're part of that, right? Like, so
right.
I'm not sure if you're parents, but I'm parents, and I know I can't just send some child out to the world to be a wild recluse, right?
Right.
Say own it. I have responsibility to make sure that it functions for the people who live there, right, and the community around you and your neighbors and all that. And so that right now is my 2024 kind of model, is making sure that what I'm functioning in, my places that I brought to life, are good quality spaces for the community around. And then from that, it does open up a lot of conversations with other economic development groups that are hoping to work with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you say is the best piece of business advice you have ever received?
Oh, my Lord. I'll tell you one real quick. Don't make a deal with a person until you've had dinner with that person and your wife.
Dave Ramsey.
There you go. But best bit of advice is you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Right? Fail forward. It's okay. I also coach sports and coach soccer for years. And, families would get so bent out of shape about their kid playing what position, are they going to make this team or not make this team? And I would just say, the best thing you can do for your child is don't just go to one tryout, go to a bunch. You're shopping that person's resume, and it's okay to hear no, and it's okay to go experience it and try something, because what have you taught them? You taught them when they're 25 or they're 35 that I'm not stuck somewhere. I can go explore this, and it's okay to hear no, but I've tried and I checked it out. Right. And so go teach that early. Get over this. It's got to be this team. It's got to be that thing. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to fail. It's okay to be told no at a tryout. Teach it young, teach it early, and take that practice to your business. You might try something, it doesn't work. Okay, go to the next thing.
Yeah, I think mindset fosters grit. I think is really important in this day and age, and maybe not always intentionally taught or to our kids.
Shop their resume.
Yeah, my husband and I talk about that often. Like our kids have a pretty comfortable life where, they're teens now, whatever. But whenever there's something that comes along that's not quite easy for them, or adversity, or they didn't get the job they wanted or something, we're silently like, good. How are you going to navigate that? We don't want everything to come super easy to them.
The best. My oldest got fired from working at a pizza shop, and you start at 3:00, work that, he rolls up at 3:05. So eventually, I'm sure the guy's getting irritated with that. And he doesn't bring his belt. Doesn't wear his belt. And the guy fires him. He comes home all like, "You fired me over a belt." I said, "Do you think he fired you really over the belt? Did you give him the opportunity to allow the belt to be the catalyst for that moment? Like, come on. You're children, right? You need someone else to tell them they're a dipstick."
Yep.
Go figure it out. I'm not going to come fight for you. Go figure it out.
Yeah, we've had to work the jobs we didn't like, and the summer jobs that were hard, and this and that. Yeah, it's good. It's a good experience.
Yeah,
kids need that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, John, this has been great talking to you. Is there anything that we didn't ask you or we haven't covered that you want to mention before we sign off here?
Honestly, it's been great. I think we talked a ton about Lansing. I really. When I looked at Lansing and I just saw all the experience that's sitting there to be had, that's the most important thing that needs to get out to the world is come and hang out, go bounce around again, do that walkabout and see all the great restaurants, the bars. There's history, there's newer restaurants, there's older restaurants. It's a great experience and it's super walkable. Get a scooter, whip around everywhere, have a great time.
Yeah, you can even canoe or kayak the river, go right by the shuffle. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. That's great. I know we get irritated when people are like, there's nothing to do in Lansing. No. There's so much to do in Lansing.
Follow your nose.
Yep, exactly. So is there anybody in the Lansing area that Lisa and I or our listeners could help connect you with? Somebody, I know you know a lot of people and you're very connected, but if there's somebody that you're just really wanting to meet or a group of people?
Yeah, honestly, I have been lucky because of the location of our business that almost every organization has come through and done an event, and I've been able to shake a ton of hands. So I don't necessarily have like a call out for a specific person, but more so I'm always looking for creatives. Are people who disrupt the norm, and I really like that. So if that's a person that in your mind when I say that comes to mind, that's who I want to meet, because that's who's interesting. That's who comes up with the next great idea.
Yeah, sure. All right. To all you disruptors out there, go on, check out Lansing Shuffle and ask for John. Talk to him. Well, thank you so much for coming on our show. And thank you so much for being so invested in Lansing and really thinking about what Lansing needs and making some of those things happen and being a big champion for this community. We need more people like you. So thank you for that.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah. And to our listeners.
To meet you.
Oh, yeah. And to our listeners, thank you again for coming on an adventure with us. We hope that you enjoyed this show. We release new episodes every Wednesday. You can find us at zdmedia.com or wherever you listen to your podcast. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel. And we hope you have a great day. And as always, go out and make it an adventure.
This is a Zedia Media production.